Okay, YouTube video might be out a little bit later. I mean, I don't know when you're seeing this, whenever it gets uploaded, but I usually upload on Tuesdays when it comes to the lifting videos. So if this is later than Tuesday, I apologize. I kind of want to explain why real quick before the video starts. CapCut, 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 CapCut. I don't pay for the premium version. I just have the free version because I'm not trying to pay $10 a month for like barely any extra benefit. However, newest update they rolled out, I can only export so many amount of files, right? So I was capped on the amount of stuff that I could export, and I couldn't export the video because I ran out of files because I do like 4 videos a day on short form, right? So I ran out, and I hadn't exported the YouTube video, and they were like, sorry, wait till next month, and we're like a couple days away from the next month for it to refresh. So I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? I downloaded an older version of CapCut that doesn't have that paywall, right? And I wasn't even using any premium features. It's not like, you know, where if you've edited it before, it'll pop up and it'll say like, hey, you're using a premium feature. You have to get CapCut Pro in order to use this feature. Wasn't that. It was just now they block you from doing like any amount. You just can't have like unlimited exports. So I downloaded an older version of CapCut, and I think that'll fix it at least for the time being so I can export this video. But issue is, the video that I made was made on a newer version of CapCut, and it tells me that, which means I don't have the video made anymore. So I have to go through and remake the entire video, which, I mean, like, I'm not some savant out here when it comes to editing, okay? I'm not making like these crazy edits, you know, like insane transitions, right? Like, I'm not saying that my job is hard out here when it comes to making the YouTube stuff. I want to make it better. I do. I'm trying to improve at editing, but I'm not there yet, right? I'm not masterful with it. I'm not making movie production quality out here. But I still have to go through and remake the entire thing. The audio over top, cutting down all the clip sizes, adding it all in, filters, everything. I got to redo. Getting the cover on and then exporting and then uploading. So that's my mission today. It's Tuesday. If I can get it done today and out to you guys, I will. But if not, it comes out Wednesday. That's why. But regardless, I just want to throw this at the start, give you a little insight into what's going on. If you use CapCut, maybe that's a workaround for you if you like to post stuff too. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy the video from this point forward. Comment any questions that you have about CapCut or lifting or whatever else. Peace out.
Yeah, so like I said in the opening clip, I have to re-record this, but that's alright. I wanted to talk a little bit about training to failure. So generally speaking, you should be training within 0 to 2 RIR or reps in reserve. Now why is that? You're going to get the most growth. You're going to be able to recruit the higher motor unit threshold or higher threshold motor units when it comes to your training. So your motor units work on like a type 1, type 2X, and type 2A basis. And so our body always is going to recruit type 1 first. It's going to be your more endurance-based muscle fibers, and then all the way working through type 2A and type 2X, your more adaptive, you know, fast twitch, or your less adaptive fast twitch. What that means is, if we're trying to grow all of our muscle fibers, which we are trying to do if we're trying to get bigger, we have to train close to failure in order to do so, because our body wants to use as little energy and not adapt as possible, because it takes energy in order to train, and it also takes energy in order to grow. And our body wants to be lazy. It wants to save that fuel because it still works on the system of, hey, you know, food's scarce, right? Obviously it's not anymore, right? You know, look at America, our obesity rates, but our body still thinks it is. So what that means is it doesn't want to adapt. It doesn't want to have to use its resources in order to make a larger human, because that requires more fuel. So we have to train close to failure in order to get those motor units to be recruited during exercise. Best way of doing that is going to be within 0 to 2 RIR. Can they still get kind of worked if we're not at like that exact point? Yes, but it's going to ensure that we're getting as many motor units recruited as possible in our training. And so we want to train within 0 to 2 RIR. This entire workout, I was training to failure the entire time, because I want to make sure that I'm in that 0 to 2 RIR range. And I felt like I've been pushing hard on my other workouts, but, you know, maybe blurring the line between, you know, 0 and 2 RIR, maybe close to 3 at some points. And I wanted to just kind of regain that basis again, so to speak, of, okay, this is what failure feels like. It's always good to kind of reassess at times in your training and, you know, kind of go back to the basics, so to speak, or set a new baseline, right? So I'm setting this baseline in this workout of this is what failure feels like when training legs. So as you can see here, I couldn't get that last rep, and so I switched from plantar flexion to dorsiflexion, which is occurring at my ankle. You can see I'm pointing my toes downwards instead of up towards the ceiling. It's going to recruit that lower leg muscle, and so I'm able to get a little bit more hamstring development because I'm able to assist with my lower leg. But yeah, training to failure is going to be beneficial or close to failure in order to get the most growth out of your training. Do you need to do it to grow? No. Is it going to be the most beneficial and most, quote unquote optimal? Are you going to get more growth faster? Absolutely. So, if you can train close to failure safely, you should do so. Now, I always talk about stable movements, choosing stable movements. That's kind of one of the reasons that you want to use stable movements is one, because you're not limited by your balance or your control. If you're thinking about holding dumbbells, as you get close to failure, it's going to be hard to keep them stable and push up, not having to worry about them wobbling. Whereas something like this, the movement that I'm doing here, only thing that is happening is my hips are adducting. They're getting closer together. There's no wobble in that at all. It's just super easy to just bring my legs closer together. So, as much as dumbbells and barbells can be nice, finding stable movements like machines can be beneficial to be able to push yourself closer to failure more frequently, get more growth. I know this is a lot of science talk right now. I'm not really giving you that many coaching cues when it comes to my form on these things, but I feel like I've done that in my past videos, so if you want to go back and watch those, I give form cues on pretty much every single movement that I do. And so I kind of wanted to just talk about this because it's an important part of training, which is going close to failure. And I feel like a lot of people get that. A lot of people understand, okay, I should be close to failure, but they don't understand why. So that's the science behind it. You want to train close to failure in order to recruit the higher threshold motor units. You're going to recruit these lower threshold motor units just by, contracting the muscle, but to get those higher threshold ones, you have to train close to failure. Again, 0 to 2 RIR roughly. This is going to be the last movement I do for the day. On this leg day, I like to throw abs in at the end of my leg days, and then we're going to go into the car talk. But if you have any questions for me in terms of training, if you want me to kind of cover this stuff in a different format, maybe a short form video where I explain, a topic specifically or whatever else, let me know. This is what I do for a job. I love this stuff. I love training people. So any questions that you have, feel free to ask. I pretty much answer all of my comments that I've received. So yeah.
All right, topic of the day. You will make more gains with less thinking. What do I mean by that? My job is to think, right? My job is to think about fitness, nutrition, hydration, sleep, stress, training, all that. Being as optimal as possible. That's my job. However, if you're trying to get big, your job is to get big. If your job is to get strong, your job is to get strong. If your job is to lose weight, guess what? Your job is to lose weight. So what that means is all of the thinking that you do, all of the should I do this or this, all of the, well, actually, I read somewhere that this might be more optimal, so I'm going to change my plan in order to do that. All of that is mental bandwidth that you're not needing to use, for one. And for two, training restructuring that is actually less beneficial to your goals. So if I were to put someone on a plan and it wasn't optimal, right? I wouldn't do this. But hypothetically, I put somebody on a plan that's not optimal for them. Let's say they have, strength gain in mind, and I put them on a hypertrophy program. If I put them on a really good hypertrophy program and they stick to it for weeks and months on end, they're going to get strength because you do gain strength as you grow muscle. That's just how it works. Same thing when you put on strength, you're just going to put on muscle. They kind of go hand in hand. But let's say I put them on an optimal plan, but then they're like, actually, I don't really like this strength plan. I want to do a different strength plan. Or, I kind of want to change my movements that I'm doing here. Or, they're always overthinking, right? Guess who's going to get more growth? The guy on the less optimal plan. Now, that doesn't make sense. He's doing something that's not as beneficial to his goals. But what he isn't doing is he isn't overthinking. So he's going to gain more progressive overload over time because he turns his brain off and he just goes, coach told me to do this, so I'm going to do this. And he's just happy-go-lucky and he's doing it, right? Whereas the person who's always overthinking and always changing things, you're not getting as much benefit because you're not able to push yourself as hard. Think of the first time that you try a new movement, something novel to you. The first time you try it, you're probably not going 100%, because it's new to you, it's a different movement, you don't know how much weight you can use. And so apply that over weeks and months of changing things all the time. That is multiple workouts, multiple exercises, days on end, where we're not doing what's the most beneficial for our goals, because of the fact that we're in this analysis paralysis mode where we're stuck in, the grass is greener on the other side. There has to be a workout that's better. There has to be a split that's better. There has to be an exercise that's better. Once you get that out of your mind and you accept that what you're doing is good enough for now and you're going to stick to it for now, then you'll make growth. Now, the reason I say for now like that, the reason I emphasize that is because if you're doing something that is suboptimal and you know it's suboptimal, that does not mean you have to stick to it for years on end. I think, in my opinion, that if you're going to change your split, absolute minimum, stick to it for 1 month. Minimum 1 month. Now, obviously, if you're like risking injury or something, don't stick to it for a month. But if the only thing that's bad about it is you're like, I could be doing something better, at least stick to it for 1 month and then switch. Because you might find that, you know what, actually, I don't really mind this. Or let's say you hate it by the end, you still got 1 month of progressive overload. Instead of changing after week 1, then changing after week 2, and then 3 weeks in you change again, and then 1 week in again you change. If you're constantly changing variables, it's hard to track stuff. Why do you think that in research studies, when scientists try and find results, what do they always do? They try and control as many variables as possible. Why? Because when you take out variables, you take out variance. When you take out variance, you get accurate results, or closer to accurate. So, if you're always training your nutrition, or always changing your nutrition, always changing your training, always switching things out, you're going to get less results over time than somebody who just turns their brain off, goes caveman mode, and starts doing the same thing. I mean, they're essentially slamming their head into a wall, right? Because it's not something that's beneficial. But guess what? You slam your head into a wall enough times, it's going to start to crack and it's going to eventually fall down, right? So it doesn't matter if it's not perfectly optimal, they're still getting results. And so somebody who's not as smart as you, somebody who's not as experienced as you, somebody who has a worse plan than you, they might get better results than you because they're not doing this muscle. They're not using their brain muscle as much. They're using these muscles more. And so again, my job is to think about this stuff. And so if you want somebody to take the guesswork out of it for you, and you just want someone to give you a plan so you can go caveman mode and just be like, well, coach says to do this, talk to me, message me. I have plans that you can buy, 12-week programs with all different types of splits, and you just run those. I have macronutrient programs. So if you don't want to worry about how much you're eating or what you're eating, you want to go caveman mode, ask me. If you want custom programming, so I literally build everything for you. I tell you how much sleep you're getting, how much nutrition you're getting, how much hydration you're getting, when you're training and what you're training. We're tracking all of these variables, and I'm tracking them. Then let's do that. Go caveman mode. Because I think that is when you're going to get the most benefit. A perfect example of this is with like Sam Sulek, right? Everybody talks about the fact that, especially when he started, he was like this meathead guy training super hard, not doing the most optimal splits or rep ranges or whatever. A lot of people said he was overtraining. And quite frankly, if you looked at his training, for most people, he probably was, right? To a degree. But he didn't let those people impact his thoughts. He just continued doing what he did. Now, eventually, did he come around to changing things a little bit? Yes, and he has over time. He's grown in his mindset towards things, and he's gotten more optimal for sure. I mean, that's like not up for debate. He speaks about it in his videos, but that is over a span of multiple weeks, months, and years that he's done that. It didn't all just happen week by week by week. He's changing things. He kind of just caveman brained it, and that is not to be an insult to him. He's a smart guy. But what I'm saying is he didn't let his intelligence stop him from just training. At the end of the day, you gotta just train. You gotta just eat. You gotta just sleep. You gotta just do these things. And so I find that as an issue for myself. I struggle with that. I, within my own training, have analysis paralysis at times. And I sometimes have to be the coach to myself and say, hey, Caveman mode, turn your brain off, just work out. It doesn't matter if it's not perfectly optimal, which, I mean, quite honestly, it usually is, but, you know, sometimes I'll, you know, cheat on my diet. Sometimes I'll, you know, like not push 100%, whatever else, right? And, you know, I kind of get on my tail about that. And as much as I do need to keep myself accountable, at the same time, it's like, it's a one-off, get back to it, you know? Don't let it affect your entire week. So, yeah, my moral for this post-lift talk, moral of the story here, caveman brain. Sometimes you got a caveman brain. I want you to think like a scientist. I want you to think intelligent, build a plan, or work with somebody that can build a plan like me that will help you build a plan. And then once you have that structure done, you have the why as to why you're doing something, and it makes sense, then caveman brain it. For at least a month, bare minimum a month. It should be multiple months. You shouldn't change your plan that often. You can go years on the same plan and never change it and still get results. But minimum a month, caveman brain it. All right, that's all I got for you today. If you want coaching, training, programming, nutrition, message me, reach out to me, or go to my website and sign up. Otherwise, if you watched all this way through, I appreciate you guys so much for that. Leave a like or subscribe, leave a comment saying that you made it all the way through. But yeah, have a good rest of your day. Peace.